Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lisa Galloway and this is Beauty from Inside and Out. And we're going to talk a little bit today about contouring. I know you've probably heard it all, but you know what? As we age, we lose a lot of that definition on our faces. And that's why I want to introduce to you just a beginner's guide on contouring. Maybe you've never done it. Maybe now that you are in your maturing years, you're finding that you're needing a little help. That's what I'm here for today. Stick around. Let's talk about this.
If you're here, then you woke up today. And that is a blessing. Don't take that for granted. Don't waste it.
I came to you today barefaced, literally. Just a little sunscreen for that protection, but barefaced. I don't want you to be distracted by the makeup I'm wearing, by what the hair I have on, style I have on. I even took my lashes off, guys. Actually, the lashes went off because I'm testing a mascara tubing. If you want to know more about that little journey, since I normally wear falsies, all the different tools that I have been finding that's been helpful when it comes to applying mascara, and I'm having fun doing that. But if you want to see something on it in the future, drop it in the comments below. Okay, getting back to focus on contouring. That's what you're here for today. So beginning contouring, as I said, barefaced so that we can get right to it. I think that the easiest way, honestly, there's so many different kind of contours out there. Cream, some are liquid. There's various, and you can choose and pick whichever one fits you the best. But I think, and I have found, and I will fluctuate just depending on my mood. But for the purposes of today, I've chosen a stick contour. I think this is a great way to help you stick to that line that you're focusing when it comes to contouring. This is just one called Chubby Contour Stick. It comes in different shades. It's with Celesty, and it's got a very obvious pointer where you want to be targeting, and we're going to get into that right now. So let me say that for us women that are mature, okay, if you're one that has never had any kind of procedure, let's say, to chisel and define your face because it's aging, and you may never, I think I at this point would probably consider myself in that category. You want to figure out a way to, as I placed in my title, define, lift, slim down areas that are just looking different than they were, 20, 30 years ago on you. And let's start with the first one, which is the basic one I think normally people think of when they think of contour, which is like their cheeks, right? If you naturally have high cheekbones, I don't per se think I have extremely high cheekbones. I've seen much higher, but I do have cheekbones that are naturally, you can naturally see them, right? Now, this is the one thing that I think also as we age is we're clearly losing a lot of that plumpness, right, on our faces. And we typically end up getting this particular area on our faces just hollowed in. That's just one obvious one. I'll tell you another bonus one that we're gonna contour or not contour. Keep that in mind towards the end of the video. But right here is a very obvious area that just we lose that elasticity, that plumpness, and so we start to have a little bit of that suction in our cheeks. We don't have that puffy, very healthy kind of youthful cheeks, right? Like the apples of the cheeks. And so we can see our cheekbone, but now we're how do I lift that? How do I have the illusion of my cheeks having a little bit of that lift? And this is where contouring does help and come in. And it doesn't have to be an obvious contour, okay? It could just be a slight contour that you yourself can notice when you are putting that finished touch on your makeup application. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the cheek. How do I find the placement for where I'm gonna put that? Using one of these sticks, I think helps a lot. It just helps control where you're placing that line. But you have a bone that sits right in the middle of your ear, and that's at the top of that cheek bone, and you can feel that just kind of coming towards the outer side of your eye. That's kind of like the tip, usually where like our apple of our cheeks are at. And I will start to take my pencil or my stick, and I bring the line darkest in the top of the cheekbone, right? And then lightly lighter towards the outer part of that cheek. It's gonna matter not to bring it too far down so it doesn't get muddied closer to your mouth and your nose. And so kind of keeping that in mind to bring the darkest part of what you're placing towards the back and then into the outer part of your eye. So this is a great indicator, and you're putting it on the actual bone. You can feel it. I think this is what's great about using a stick too, because you can feel where you are placing, where that stick is hitting. You can feel it on your bone. If you go too high, it goes too close to your temple. If it goes too low, it's gonna bring everything down in the whole illusion, and what we're trying to achieve is to have a lift. Okay, so let's go ahead and now blend this to give the lift that we are looking. So I take my brush, and I don't just start. I know the typical way we either see a lot of placement when it comes to, or how to blend that in, is kind of like this back and forth motion. I would prefer to take the brush and start to flick upward. So I am keeping in mind, this is what I am trying to do, is to lift. And you can gently, with certain pressure, just take that and flick upward. Okay, if you feel like, okay, it seems like it has disappeared, where has it gone? You can always go back and just add a little bit more until you're satisfied with the look you want, with the depth of the contouring you're trying to get, okay? But you can see how this is going to give you a very defined contour. So that's one way to contour onto the face for definition. The other one, guys, is our jawlines. I know that many times we're dealing with either your neck almost being aligned to your jawline, kind of like you're needing that defined jawline. And a great way to do that is with contouring. A lot of times we think that when we're going to take a contour to do that, is that we're hitting it right like on that jaw bone, right? We can feel it. And the mistake I think that happens is that we do it on the jawline, and then again, it's trying to eliminate that muddiness, because you're trying to be very specific, very defined. And if you're putting it on the jaw line exactly, then you're cutting your makeup with your neck, and it can do two things. It can give you like that floaty head kind of look, which we don't want. We want cohesiveness. But it also can just cut off the lines. Like everything, again, you will want everything to be blending. So instead of going on the line, even though we're talking about jawline, what we really want to do is go underneath the jaw. And you can see here that as I'm putting my finger, right, my finger's disappearing. Although this is my jawline, this is not where we want to put the line. We need to go under. And I start again at the back, right, almost underneath my ear lobe, and go underneath my jawline to the center of my chin. Can you see that? So under instead of on, and then same thing on this side, back of the earlobe, under, and then line. And we're gonna just take, again, that brush, and this time what we're gonna do is do the back and forth here. I just gotta go underneath, and this is going to, again, give a more chiseled jawline. Without having the cutoffs. Because even though you're not seeing it, you can see now with the shadow. And then as I place bronzer to even out my face to my neck, you're going to see a defined jawline instead of a floaty head or just, that disconnection. Okay, so jawline. The other one that kind of goes along the jawline, it depends on, with this very slightly way to contour like your neck, is if you want a defined like V kind of neck contour to your neck to slim it down. If you feel, like I said before, you have more of a boxy neck that kind of goes into your face, and you want to kind of just bring in that narrowness. And that's a good way to do that, is also just to bring the line from the side of your neck all the way down to where like the, I don't know what the name of this, but you have like, it's part of your collarbone, but it's in the center. So you bring that all the way down to that area on both sides, and you're gonna have not an obvious line, but something that gives you the illusion, once again, that you are narrowing down your neck and giving it a slimmer look, okay? Now, clearly I don't have that issue, so if I did it, you're gonna basically see the same thing, but you will see it if you're working with, something in that particular situation. So it kind of goes along with the jawline in a sense to work with narrowing your neck. Okay, moving along. The next one, guys, I think it's one that we also, it just tends to happen, right? Our lips, we can contour those many ways. It's not just only about lip lining to give it more of a fullness, which is clearly another form of contouring, but it's what we're doing and how we're doing the contouring. So let me break this down. I'm going back to my stick. I'm gonna take this and I'm going to go under. It's going to feel very awkward when you first start doing this. So trust the process when you are beginning to try a new technique and work with it. Learn how to ignore what you're looking at as you're beginning those steps. Because when I first started to do this, and I didn't understand the concept, and I thought, why shadow underneath? Well, it's giving the illusion once again that bottom lip is fuller than what it is. And you do this before you actually go in and line your lips. It just gives the shadow of the bottom lip having a little bit more of a fullness. Now, same thing as going and doing this with a contour. I know that this one, I don't want to say controversy. It could be a controversy because this is just going to be according to your like. Okay, so we're going to take your choice of lip liner. Okay, this one is also from Celesty, and it is a waterproof lip liner. Comes in the really pretty shade that's just a bit smidged darker in pigment than your natural color. And that's like the best way to choose what kind of lip liner and contour that's gonna go right with your shade. You don't want something that's too dark and too obvious, and you don't want something that's too light that won't show anything. So you gotta find the right shade. Take the pencil, and this is for the top part of your lip. Now I know we have typically, for the most part, we all have like a Cupid's bow. What I like to do to give my lips a little bit of a fullness, because you can clearly see that my lips have thinned out quite a bit, not only with age, but also with the condition that I have, the scleroderma. It's a tightening of the skin, and so it has shrunk my lips dramatically. So what I do is I round off my Cupid's bow. Okay, so instead of giving the Cupid's bow an actual defined look, again, total preference, this is just to give your lips a fuller, plumper look if you have extremely thinner lips because of aging. So just round it off. Same thing in the bottom. And you're going to immediately take a brush. Remember the first part I did with the contouring under my lip? So I'm gonna gently take a brush and brush underneath the lip for that fullness. And I have now a little bit more of a poutier lip by just doing a few little tweaks and contouring. If you're in love with having a Cupid's bow, I know that it's a little sexy, right? Then, you choose what you think is best. Maybe your bottom lip has lost the volume, but your top lip is fine. And then that's when you tweak and just do the first step with contouring under your lip, and then go ahead and do your Cupid's bow in the top. Every one of us is dealing with the lossage of whatever on our faces differently. So these are just a few kind of tweaks that you can try depending on where you fall in. Okay, so moving along, guys. The next one is going to be our eyes. Okay, I know you think, Lisa, how in the world and why? And I've never heard of contouring eyes. This is what I mean about contouring a hooded eye. And I'm sure that you've probably heard of that phrase, but if you haven't, all that is that your lid is not showing, because the top of your eye, above your eyelid, right, your brow bone, that skin is either with age drooping over your lid, okay, causing for your lid not to be seen, or if naturally you don't have that area where you see your lid, okay, because that's just the structure of your face, you can contour clearly that area on your eyes. And that is simply by that very first color of choice for your eyeshadow is going to go above this crease to your eye. So it's going to go right kind of like half, either you can use half of the brow bone, or you can go all the way up, depending on how you choose and how you like to wear your eyeshadows. So I personally like it where I just kind of bring it above the crease, but halfway through, because I like the very top of under that brow to have a little bit of a lighter look for a pop to my eyes. But that's a choice. That's a personal choice. That immediately will give your eyes a much more awakened eye. You can see the coloring of what your choice of eyeshadow that you're wearing. Amazing. Not to mention lining, right? We have where we can do a winged eye that will help to give the eyes a lifted look, because sometimes our eyes, without even realizing it, I'm sure that if you took a picture of you, let's say, 30 years ago, you will see a slight change in how your eyes are starting, especially at the end, are starting to kind of like droop down. And what we want is for this lift to our eyes, right? So having the liner do a very easy seeing wing to your eye will give that illusion upward, right? So I know that it's tough sometimes, especially as we are getting older, having that steady hand to do it, and we're finding it frustrating, and there's so many little things and tweaks that we can find to help us get that accomplished. Okay, so this liner, it's not from Celesty. I actually got it in one of those Fab Fit Fun boxes, and it's by Pat McGrath Labs. But what I like about it is, look how thin this line is. I mean, it is so thin. It's going to make it easy to get what you're trying to achieve with that winged eye look, right? So again, making it easier for yourself. I'm going to get my trusty little mirror here and get it to the side where I'm magnifying. Okay, so it helps to bring your pen upward, right? So immediately that helps with the technique. And I try not to shut my eye. I go up. One of the things that I think also we can struggle with a little is we have texture all over our eyes, right? As we're aging. And you can go clearly like underneath. I don't care for doing a liner under my eye. I think it closes my eye tremendously. So I leave up to doing these liners just on the top of my eye. But when you shut your eye, you can see how you have a little bit of a lift. So it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be, and I don't have like clearly all of my shadow in. I'm just trying to demonstrate. And sometimes pulling your skin upward can help also getting that line in, again, because of the texture that you may have. But that's something as subtle as that can give your eyes such a pretty subtle lift to your eyes that someone may actually do like a double take and go, did you have any work done? And that's the beauty about learning how to do these little tweaks to your makeup. Again, you don't have to feel like you have to run out and go get procedures done, and it's expensive, it's scary, and maybe that's not you. I know it's not me. If I can figure a way to get this done, get this look that I'm trying to get with makeup, then I'm going to try it all avenues. Okay, so again, very subtle, guys. Very easy. I think the secret of that is definitely getting a very fine pen that you can have the control. It won't get smudgy, and angling the pen a certain way and just giving yourself a little grace. Okay, so the next one, guys, I think is a huge one that we see probably quite often, and that's nose contouring. And then, of course, with nose contouring, we can be trying to achieve a lot of things. Sometimes it could be the narrowing of a nose, right? And what I mean by that is that if you have a little bit of a wider nose, you want the illusion of this particular area on your nose, on your face, to look narrow. You can also be trying to achieve maybe a shorter nose, right? Maybe you don't want your nose to look either extremely protruding out or a droopy nose that you're trying to lift. So there's a lot of different ways that you can contour. Let's tackle the one for narrowing down. And this is when, again, these pens come in so handy. You have same feel as I did with the cheeks, right? You have clearly the center part of your nose, and then you have that bone on both sides of your nose. Now, the wider you go on trying to create a line, then the more you're going to be going against what you're trying to do. Does that make sense? Like, I know sometimes you think if I go wider outside the line, then I'll have the center bright and that'll give an illusion of a narrow nose. But actually the opposite is happening. Then the center of your nose, which is the brightest, is being outplayed by everything else. So you want to keep your line like almost very close to one another. So there's like my first line, right? And then I'm going in with my second line. It's not an obvious difference. And completing the bottom. I like to take the pen or the stick and bring it up as close as I can to the brow. Okay. Now comes the part that you get to blend. Take a brush, a small brush that you can now easily blend that in. Try not to over blend and erase the line you've created. All you're doing is darkening up your nose, basically. And then the magic starts to happen when you take a lighter color now and draw a line on the center of your nose. So I'm going to take my palette here. This one back is from Celesty, and it's fun. It's got all these different shades that you can play with and see which one is the best shade for you. I'm taking the lightest shade on here, not this one. This is a powder, so it would be this one. The brush choice also is important. Going back to a very fine, smaller brush to keep placement where you want it. So I'm just going to go, and this is why it helps to do it with a brush, because it helps keep your hand steady. And you just want a very light color, okay? And then, now I don't have my makeup on, so it's probably not going to look very clear, but this is what it would do once you have like your foundation on. I'm taking that same color and I'm placing it on the side of my nose, okay? Remember, you have already the nose that's darkened. So going back with my brush and lightly, because you still want to see that center line. Keep the between your brows a little lighter and pat down that line without having to erase it, right? Just pat it. If you do it too much, you're going to overblend and you're going to remove what you're doing. Same thing with the side of the nose. You're going to pat, and what you want is the center of your nose and the side of your nose to have the same coloring, so that what you're trying to do with that darkening contouring is to give you the illusion of a narrow nose. See how different that looks? And again, keeping in mind, I don't have like my under eye makeup, I don't have my foundation on, but this is how you create a narrow nose, guys. And the same thing goes with shortening your nose. You don't want to bring that completed circle that I did. You want it on the top. You want to keep it at the top and then give that lighter color a little bit, like place it under your nose, that lighter color. Okay, and it's going to give your nose a little bit of a lift. Again, the illusion is the brightness. So that's to kind of lift the nose up. It feels like, if it feels like your nose is starting to curve down, it just seems to happen with some of our faces with structure, right? So again, nose contouring, fun. It takes a little practice, but knowing the right shades for you. And if you're needing help with that, guys, I'm here to help you. I always have down in my description below a place where you can send a selfie of yourself, like makeup free. I'm the only one that sees that. I can see the shades of your natural skin without any makeup on, and I can help you with the choice of color. I know sometimes that's something that we get stuck with and we get frustrated with, and we're like, I don't even know where to begin and what shades I should be using. And I'd love to help you with that. Okay, so again, the right shade, the right brushes that you're using is going to help tremendously. Like, let that be how hard you're working to get your accomplished look, right? Like the whole thing said, like, work harder. Don't work hard, just work smarter. Okay, guys, now the last one, which I think was a bonus, because we've covered the cheeks, and I said 5. We covered the cheeks, we've covered the jawline, we've covered the lips, we've covered the nose. And here is the number 5th one, which I think is kind of a bonus that I believe we seem to forget. One of the areas on our faces, I think that also with age seems to change is our temple. I mentioned that earlier in the beginning of this video. It's just part of what's happening to the structure to our faces is that our temples become very, very hollowed. Same thing that's happening down below on our cheeks. We're losing that volume. We're losing that volume. We're losing that plumpness on our temples. Now, when it comes to bronzing, I think sometimes we can get a little heavy-handed and start bronzing in that area. And bronzing usually brings warmth back into your face. So I personally would advise to stay clear from doing any bronzing on that area, okay? And on the contrary to that, you can still put on your foundation and everything. But 2 things that I suggest that you can do as far as giving that illusion that you still have that visible temple there without it being look dark. Okay, and the one is the same shade that you're using to do like a brightener, like on the ends of your eyes to complete your look, right? It has like a pretty brightening effect, is to bring that same shade up on top. Brighten that area as much as you can, subtly without it looking obvious, but then complete the look with bringing your blush color towards that area. It gives it more of a lift to your eyes, or to your look, to your face. Keeps it very, very cohesive with the coloring that you're choosing for your lips and your cheeks. And it's just an area I think that we sometimes either don't really pay attention to or we may ignore. And yet it's still paying either an obvious attention to it when we're darkening that area and have that hollowness to our face, which we don't want. We want to have our faces look as healthy, as plump, with as much elasticity to it that we can by the techniques that we're doing with our makeup, right? So I hope that you found this very helpful. Please like, subscribe to the channel. I always try to bring some form of tips or education to this channel, or even reminders. Sometimes we just forget and we're all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, like I forgot that could be done. And hopefully that's what I have done for you today. So again, stay tuned for next week. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the lashes. If you want to drop that into the comments and you want to hear more about the journey I've taken down with tubing and techniques and fun things that I have found to help these lashes look party and big and obvious without the falsies, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Again, hope you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Until next week. Love you. Bye.